Is that a backup?
It is.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the September 18th, 2017 edition of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Plattsburgh, where we will hear various and sundry applications for variances from the zoning ordinance. We are a 5-member board. We have 5 people here. Unfortunately, one of them, Kate Francisco, has a conflict because she owns property within 500 feet of another. We need 3 positive votes to carry a motion. And what we do allow people to do is we have 2 choices. It affects appeal number 2130, Kim Karofsky, and appeal number 2136, Tim and Judy Gibbons. You can either postpone because we don't have a full board, or you can allow Kate to waive the 500-foot rule and vote. She, I think, feels that she can be impartial regarding those, but if for any reason that you're concerned about it and you want us to present a full board, we would do that at a future date when we have, there are only 6 of us actually. It's supposed to be a 7-person board with 2 alternates. We're lacking 1 alternate. So you can either postpone for a month and hope that we have 5 voting members not within 500 feet of your property next month, and that would be on our behalf, or you can vote, you can allow her to waive the 500-foot rule. Kim Karofsky? You don't have a problem with that. And Tim and Judy Gibbons?
No, we don't have a problem.
Okay. So what we're going to do, just so we understand, is that we're going to allow Kate to vote even though she owns property within 500 feet. And we're going to take the agenda right in the order it is. So we're going to start with Kim Karofsky. Come on up, 2130. Appeal number, Class B variance installed carport, too close to the property line. This is a continuation from last month. And we discussed it at length. Did you do anything about exploring a garage thing or a...
No, nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed, yeah. And I don't remember if we did the secret last time.
I didn't look.
Yeah,
they're not there.
Oh, these are the ones before. Okay. So we didn't do that. Have you changed anything at all about your...
No, I had some questions, that's why I came
Yeah, sure,
back.
go ahead.
If there was a concern about green space, I'm not covering green space, I'm covering asphalt.
Right. Yeah, it's not that, it's closeness to the property line.
Well, I would ask, how close is Sally Terry's carport to the property line?
What's that?
How close is Sally Terry's carport to the property line?
Well, the problem is that it's connected to your structure, so it extends the structure.
What if it's not attached?
It's got to be in the rear yard, correct, Joe?
Yes.
So it's not allowed to be, and again, I know, you know how we went through this last month, and it's a difficult thing, but it's not allowed to be in the side yard. Any accessory structures, which are detached structures, have to be in the rear yard. So at the end of your driveway behind the house, you could put a garage as an example, okay? But you can't put it next to your house, so it couldn't be there detached, and once it becomes attached to the house, then it needs to stay out of the side yard setbacks, which are, I'm not sure how wide your lot is, but it's 10 and 15 feet. Is that an R2, Joe? Right? Yes.
It's an R2.
So
35 feet wide.
But so she would get a
She's entitled to a deed of deficiency down to 7 feet.
7 feet, but, you know, you can't even put the thing, you're gonna be almost right there, right on the property line. So,
The neighbor across the street asked if we brought up the fact that snow removal is a really big issue in that area.
then what?
Snow removal, there's no place to put it.
Right,
And the store was blowing it against the house, so it was damaging the house, and the basement was wet in the spring when it would melt. Well, now they blow it into the street, so I clear my driveway. The plow comes by after they've cleared their driveway, and I've got to clear my driveway again.
right,
You know, I have a four-wheel drive vehicle.
right.
If I had a carport, I could at least get out, because I could go through the
Right.
snowbank. But this is a problem every winter, and I don't know how long they've been there, but
Right.
we haven't been able to resolve it.
You know, although I have a garage in the back, but I can't use it for my car, but I live on Cow Street and I have the same thing. I have this little narrow driveway right next to my house. I mean, it's right there. I can't, I'm in the same restriction. That's one of the problems you'll see throughout the city. All these people with the driveways right next to their house. Matter of fact, most of the driveway, the other thing is that paved areas are supposed to, even just the paved area is supposed to be 3 feet from the property line, which you go anywhere, your street, Montcalm, my street, they're not, they're right up to the property line. So what we're trying, part of this has to do with not aggravating already deficient, you know, things with side yard setbacks in these neighborhoods. It's just, otherwise it's just gonna get packed in more and more, and that's really the restriction. The other issue is that the more, if we do this, at least my feeling is, it starts to set a precedent that everybody's gonna come and say, well, you gave her one, you've gotta give me one, you gave her one, and all of a sudden we're just gonna find carports everywhere built right up next to the property line. That's really a big part of it too, and it, unfortunately, we need to, we were just talking about this downstairs, one of the main principles of zoning is to say, my property is unique because whatever, and it's not, yours is not unique in your neighborhood by the very fact that so many of them have driveways like that right next to the property line. That's why you'll see on Montcalm and so on, people will want to build something in the front, like bigger porches, you know, a porch in the front, and they'll go, look, everybody else on this street has one, mine's unique because it doesn't. And they end up getting these porches further out and closer to the sidewalk or whatever. But that, it's a problem. I mean, we can vote on it. I think you know what the general feeling was last time.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't, there's no, and I'm not saying this negatively, but there's nothing you really brought to us to say, what if I did this or that? And I'm not sure there is something you could say. There's no other way to build a carport except the way you propose. So we can, I guess, I'll open it back up for public comment. Does anybody here have any comments at all about 16 Durand Street? Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing portion. The board have questions? Do we want to, I mean, I don't know about doing a seeker and approving a seeker. If we want to just vote on the thing itself, and then if it passes, do the seeker. Anybody have a concept about that?
Well, I guess the question is, are you looking for a vote today?
I guess I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, what is a seeker?
What's that?
That's the environmental assessment form that you filled
The
out.
seeker, which frankly we would approve probably, I would say. The seeker only has to do you have an environmental impact? And those kind of questions are things like, are you using way too much power? You're going to create extra traffic? Are you in a archaeologically sensitive area? Stuff like that. None of which applies. So if we voted, here's what the story. If we voted on the seeker, we would, we didn't do the seeker though, correct? I don't think so. So if we voted on the seeker, we might approve the seeker, which would just say that you're not harming the environment, has nothing to do with the actual ordinance variance. So the question is, do we want to do the seeker, approve the seeker, and then vote on the,
I said we vote and see if it's approved and then do the seeker if we have to.
well, let's do the seeker and just get it done. And it's going to take us not very long. I think that's the proper way to do it. I'm sorry, but, no, I know, I thought the same thing too, but I don't want it procedurally, let's, I wouldn't want to, I brought the question up, but then I couldn't, okay? So we have a short form seeker, and it does say that she needs, in question to a building permit and a variance. And let me know if anybody, if they have.
Question 5,
What is it?
question 5, top of page 2. Should be
So the answer is no on 5.
5A, and I would say 5B also.
Right.
Do you want A changed?
A and B,
Yes.
number 5, I'm gonna give you this anyway. Permitted use under the zoning regulations, no, it's not. Consistent with the comprehensive plan, no.
Yes, to no. And B is no or yes?
No to
No.
both of them, 5A and B.
But no. Okay?
And if not, I would like a motion regarding the seeker and the ability to check questions 1 through 11 as being no or small impact, and my ability to sign the form stating that.
I'll move that on appeal number 2130, that on part 2 of the environmental assessment form, no or small impact may occur be checked from 1 through 11, and the chair sign the bottom of page 4 and check the box that there will be no significant adverse environmental impact from the proposed action.
Second, Kelly. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that is the seeker, which I said is an informal thing. If there's no other comments or questions, I guess I'm looking for a motion. You can make a positive motion or a negative motion. We need 3 votes to pass it. If you make a positive motion, 3 people would vote yes. Make a negative motion, 3 people would vote yes. So, who wants to make the motion?
All right, I'll make a motion in regards to appeal 2130 for Kim Karofsky at 16 Durand Street to deny her request to build a carport in the side yard setback.
Okay, who seconds it? Kelly. So a yes vote would be to deny, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, it's a unanimous yes vote to deny, which I think you probably expected. And normally we don't do this, but I would like people just to very quickly sum up why they voted yes to deny. I think it's important.
I voted yes, just because the last meeting we said that it exceeded coverage by 42% when 30 is allowed, and if the carport was put on, it would exceed 50%. So that was my main reason. Thank you.
I agree with that, and then also just too close to the lot line. Just, I had a real hard time with it being attached to the house.
For those reasons and setting the precedent for other people to, that'd be tough to go through after that.
I don't have anything else to add to those
Right.
reasons.
I would say, although and my daughter lived on the street for a while, and I understand your plight, and I don't disagree that it'd be nice to have the carport. I was most concerned about setting a precedent, and a lot of people coming for carports. And I don't like carports that close anyway. I mean, there's a reason for it, right next to the property line. I find them to be problematic. I know you could have dealt with the water and stuff, but I was most concerned about just in general that once we started giving out carports, everybody would want them. I mean, I'm in the same situation. I'd love one. And so that, for me, was a big part of why I voted to deny. So.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
I've had the garage straightened twice, and it's still, I mean, it's not straight. I don't know how old it is, but it's old.
Right.
I mean, if I were to tear that down which is also close to the property line. But there are cement footings in there
Yeah,
that the
yeah.
people that, when they jacked it up or straightened it the last time, they put in a new sill plate. If I were to tear that garage down and rebuild it, could I rebuild it on that sill plate?
We often, I'll just say it to you this way, we often have people that come that have accessory structures that are non-compliant in states of disrepair where they could legally fix them one wall at a time, and we find that to be impractical, and often take that into account. And what you would do is come to Joe, go to the building inspector and say, sometimes people want to make them bigger, they say, it's only 2 feet from the property line, I need 5 feet, this is where
No,
my
it's
foundation.
closer than 2 feet.
Right, but this is where my foundation was, I had a grandfathered in deficient thing, much easier with accessory structures in the rear yard. And I'd be more than happy to meet with you with Joe and look at plans to discuss that.
I don't know that I'll go that route, but,
No, but if you want to discuss it, costs nothing to discuss it.
okay,
Why don't we do that? Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Jennifer Carter Kelly, 131 Brinkerhoff, come on up. And this is a request for a 12 by 28 deck with arbor in an RH district. We have a filled out application. We have a short form seeker. And we have a sketch. And we have a history of the house and a determination by the planning board that it is a local issue, and we have an aerial photograph. And my understanding is that you had an existing deck,
That's right, yes.
and you built this one over it,
Mhm.
and it got built too close to the property line.
Yeah, it extended what was not there to begin with,
Yeah.
right?
We did discuss this downstairs some, and I am familiar with the history a little bit, so we talked about it downstairs. Now, have you applied for a permit now then?
Yeah, we've,
Right.
yes,
But you can't get one because you need variance.
right.
And it's done anyway, correct? I mean, it's built, it's
It
finished.
is built,
And it's
yes.
nice, by the way. But this is not the side that is the issue, this is the driveway side. It is the back side, if you will,
West side.
west side of it, that is too close to the property line. And on the other side, that's where the bamboo fence is?
Yeah, you can just see, it's not what you see up above. I mean, that's bamboo as well, but that's more just a screen, a private screen.
Right.
Fence is
bamboo
basically in
screen, yeah.
line, right below it. You can see the top of it where the white car is.
But where the bamboo screen is, that extends, that's the part that's 6 inches from the property line, correct?
That's right.
Right. All right, I'm going to start with questions from people.
I just want to clarify what we're talking about. So the bamboo part is the part that we're.
Well, it's not, it's the deck itself.
The deck itself, and that didn't exist there.
The deck was, there was a deck there, and this deck, the house is about 2 feet from the property line when the contractor, her father's married, but built it. He covered that deck and went closer to the property.
Oh, he
line.
did go closer, okay.
Right, it's
Sorry.
6 inches instead of 2 feet, correct?
That's right.
Give or take.
Are the garden boxes part of the variance that were?
Say that again?
Are the garden boxes, the terracing that comes down from it, part of what needs to be
Addressed.
considered in the, in the variance?
Joe, the garden
These-
boxes are not considered part of it.
Right here.
Oh,
These
those
are
guys,
this is all terrace.
You mean those?
section,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Those do not need a variance, no.
Okay.
That's landscaping.
Landscaping go right
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the deck part itself.
It's really pretty, by the way.
Thank you, thanks.
And it's,
And the previous deck was 12 feet out also?
The previous deck was not quite, I would say it was more like more like 6 feet out from the end of the house. Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Yes.
So,
Okay.
out this way, away.
Yeah, towards the backyard.
towards the backyard.
Right. Right.
And what is beyond the fence and your property line? Is that parking?
Yeah, there's college housing. You can see just the edge of the, kind of through the pergola. So it's college
Okay.
housing, 2 or 3 apartments, I'm not sure how many in that house, next to us.
Ah, okay.
And, yeah, you can see just mostly pavement there.
Is that a fence along the property line?
Yep, the fence, we did get, when we built the fence, there was a permit for, and that's basically right inside the existing property line.
Is that your fence or is that?
It's our fence.
And
The one
it is
on the-
still there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There you can see the top.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
just
right there.
barely see it
So the
there.
deck, as it extends out, basically comes right to the inside of the existing fence that's,
Okay.
has been there.
I see the shadowed area is the single shadowed area.
Yeah.
I'm gonna open this to the public. Anybody here from the public have a comment regarding 131 Brinkerhoff and a request for a deck that encroaches on the side yard setback?
Just a comment that if you're living in college housing area, you need that to exist. And you're encroached upon on a daily basis, I suspect. So
Yeah. Right.
it's very well done, and to have a family in that neighborhood is terrific. I applaud you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing portion. Actually, that's a good point, and I will say that, I mean, it's a concern always, the side yard setbacks, and again, this is the RH district, is where I live, but I would mention that, it's my opinion anyway, that we want to do whatever we can to keep single families in the RH district, because they're hard enough to get there, much less keep there, and I think that if you want to be a foot and a half closer to the college kids, you can be. That's, I guess, my opinion, but it's easy for me to say. They're right next door to me too, so. Are there any more questions? If not, I'd like to look at the seeker. Does anybody have a question? Okay, let's do the seeker then. And I think that number 5, consistent with the adopted plan, should not be a yes, should be a no also. 5B. And if anybody has or if nobody has any questions regarding it, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
About,
Yep, that, I make a motion that for appeal.
this is the seeker, right? We're doing the
Yes.
seeker.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
I don't have to point out the appeal number.
2135.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think you.
For 2135, the short environmental assessment form, that the zoning chair find that there is no or small impact that may occur, and check the boxes in part 2. And check the box stating it has been determined based on the information analysis and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I'm looking for a motion regarding the variance, and I'd like to define the variance to say that it is for an area. Joe, to be clear, this one would have a 75-foot standard lot width,
Yes,
and this lot is,
this lot is 47 feet wide.
So, can you tell us what the side yard would be?
Yeah, I could have 6.2 on that side, but it's actually in the rear yard, so it's not entitled to that.
Say that again?
It's in the rear, so it's not entitled to that side yard deficiency.
Oh, it's not, okay, so it's 10?
Yes.
So 9.5 deficiency.
Yeah, right. It's 10, it's required. So the deficiency, I mean, even though it was objective, existed there, is for 9.5 feet by 12 feet.
I'll make a motion that appeal number 2135, that we approve a variance for the deck that is existing there, that is 12 feet in depth and is 9.5 feet deficient in the side yard setback.
Seconded by
I'll second.
Scott. Okay. Yep, it's 5, a unanimous 5-0, yes, but you're approved, you can get your permit now and
Thank you very much.
finish. Thank you very much for participating in the process. Okay? Next one. Tim and Judy Gibbons, come on up. Class B variance request to build a gazebo in the backyard, which is deficient in open space and coverage. Good evening. We have some legal questions for you, and we're a little confused. And I'll start with that downstairs. And I want to clarify something first, which is that we can, whatever we say, let's say we give you a variance or something. But let's say we give you a variance. Well, if we don't give you a variance, then you can't build it. But if, let's say we give you a variance, you still have all the homeowners or whatever it is to deal with, right? In other words,
Yeah.
right? It's, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to understand this. Your organization came to us at, oh God, it must have been, I don't remember when, because somebody wanted to sell you, remember that?
Correct.
And that was when they changed, it was a co-op and there were no, and amongst other things, we had 0 lot lines we had to deal with and all that
Right.
stuff. Right. Since that has happened, now you each own, it's like townhouses in a sense.
It is a town.
It is a
actually.
townhouse, you
Yeah.
have a homeowners association.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So each of you owns the footprint, and I'm fairly familiar with HOAs and stuff. Each of you owns the footprint of your unit, and the homeowners association, to which you, I assume, pay fees, maintenance,
Correct, yeah.
and reserves and so
Yeah.
on, owns the common area around the building.
Correct.
One of our we can vote or not vote in a sense on a variance, which doesn't mean just because we said, yeah, it's okay, that you go to the homeowners and say, well, the zoning board said it's okay, so we get to do it, which I'm sure you know.
Right.
But the other question that came up is, do we have an issue of standing? That whether or not you have standing, and I understand you're an officer, I mean, there's only 4 votes, right, in the homeowners. There's 4 units, each unit
Right.
has 1 vote. So
Right.
you have 1 vote. But do you have one of the first questions is, do you have standing? You understand that phrase, right? To be able to request this because you're not the owner. You know, we're not trying to be difficult, but this is an odd thing. We're often in other situations where there clearly is an owner, a single owner, has to give people permission to come, to have standing to appear before us to ask for variance. So that's our first question. Is that Do you have any, can you shed any light on that? Do you have, like, are you allowed to ask for this? Because in a sense, you don't own the property.
There's nothing in our homeowners association to say otherwise.
To say otherwise from you?
You're saying that.
I'm not saying, we don't know, I'm asking you. I'm not
We need
saying
to
you
ask
can
for
or
this. Is
can't.
there anything in our homeowners association saying that we can or cannot ask for this? Is that what you're saying?
That, I guess that's,
Well, but you're asking for a modification of an area that it sounds like in effect you don't own, that the homeowners association
You
as a
own
group
part of
owns. Yeah, you have a.
you all own 100% of it though, correct? Right. When you,
I think it's, each has probably
they have a
a
vote.
quarter interest, I would think.
Quarter
Right.
share in the corporation.
Right, but they own the whole thing. I think you own the whole thing together, even though
Yes.
you have a quarter interest. Like, you can't divide it up and say that quarter is mine.
No, it's an undivided 1/4 interest. is what
Right,
you have-
right,
what you would
okay,
say,
that's,
but it's
okay,
not 100%.
right, that's, so that's the first question. I'm not saying we don't want to hear it, I'm not,
Right.
but I just, what I don't want is that we hear it and then somebody goes, oh, wait a minute, he doesn't have standing, he couldn't ask for that. I'm not saying that's true. And I guess that anything we do this evening would be conditioned on the fact that, you know, I don't mind, none of us mind hearing this. We just don't want to do something that we're not allowed to do. And again, as I said, big deal if we say yes. Right? You gotta go to the
We
rest of the
understand
homeowners
that.
association, and there are 4 people, and I think we have some correspondence of too, but there are 4 people that are all gonna vote whether or not you can put up the gazebo, I guess, right? You're trying to get permission to put it up. Once you have that permission, I just wanna get this clarified before we.
We were initially going for a permanent structure.
Right, I understand.
Right, but we actually received some quotes and we're not gonna go through the permanent structure route because of the cost factor. So what we're planning on putting up would be something like a kit, like a gazebo kit that can be put up and take down, but most likely it'll be left up.
When Joe had been at the property before, he said that what we had was a temporary structure and that was fine.
Right.
That it didn't cause any problems in terms of needing a variance. We would, again, put up a temporary structure, only it would be a little bit larger in size. So it kind of
Right, and so
negates
let's
what
talk
we're
about-
asking for
Right.
anyhow.
So let's
The
talk
quote
about.
blew us out of the park.
Right, let's talk about that. The woman that was here first, that came last month, we talked to her about temporary structures, about, you know, get one of the, I mean, none of us like them, but get one of, if you get one of those plastic things, or it's a temporary, I'm not saying you're gonna get a plastic
Right,
thing.
right. We
But it's a
understand what you're
temporary
saying.
structure.
It's something that can come down and go up without
Right, well,
difficulty.
it doesn't have a foundation.
Right.
Joe,
No.
how are we defining temporary structures? Can you explain that?
Well, it wouldn't be attached to to the house either. So,
What's
I mean,
that?
there's no attachment to the existing structure, so it's
Oh,
not a
no,
continuation of the
that,
existing
that's whether or not
structure.
it's an accessory structure, but.
Right.
Why would we say a structure is temporary as opposed to permanent?
Because it's more along the lines of, portable. Can
Right.
take-
So it would have
can
no
take it apart.
foundation? Would have no foundation.
Yeah.
If, if you put a foundation in, whatever you put on it would become permanent, correct?
Yes.
Right. So would this have a foundation?
No,
No.
No. So then the question becomes whether or not they need to see us, Joe. If you're not gonna do,
We're not gonna do a permanent structure. The quote that came in was exorbitant. And it was like,
Right.
it's hard to justify that price for an outdoor structure that's used X number of months a year.
right, how about this? And I saw in your thing where you talked about, you know, not, you know, you're over 40 now and you don't.
That was
put a-
kind.
Okay, maybe you're not, I don't know. But anyway, not wanting to do it every year and stuff, that's
Right.
why we get central air, so we don't have to put the air conditioners in. I'm gonna have you ask, how about this for now? Why don't you ask for a postponement? Not
Okay.
for 30 days, but for, when would you do this? temporary structure?
Probably in October sometime.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
you ask for a 90-day postponement of this until they decide what they're doing, that way they can come back if all of a sudden they decide that the temporary thing doesn't do it, but it's not gonna help. You could come back next month and say, wait, we went to the temporary ones, we still wanna consider this. I also I would feel a little bit better, because I'd really like you to just look at your homeowner's rules, and I'm not saying you're wrong, and you may want to, if you decided you were gonna come back to us, I think if it were me, I would ask the homeowners association, this isn't giving you permission to build or not build a structure. I would ask them to give you something that gives you standing to ask us. Like a letter of authorization from the homeowner.
For variance, but
Yeah, because we do that all the time for people. People have to have an interest, we have definable interests, like you're leasing you rent it right now, or you own
Buying
it.
it, or
If you
you've
don't.
got a contract to buy it.
Huh?
Or you've got
Or
a
you have a contract to buy it.
But it's the whole.
okay, but at this point, since the variance is really no longer on the table because it will not be a permanent structure, is there a need for us to come back?
No, but if, I'm just trying to give you, there's no need for you to come back, then you would withdraw your application.
Right,
I was trying to do it just to give you the most freedom in the future in case for some reason you change your mind about.
and want the permanent structure?
Right.
Yeah, that's
But you know
not
what, that's not
happen.
gonna happen. Then
Not at that
then I guess
price.
what then you're gonna
My
withdraw
wife's
your
retired now,
application.
so I don't think.
Right, then you're gonna ask you're gonna withdraw your application.
Right.
Which you don't need our permission to do.
Okay,
All right?
but it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
Okay.
That was
Thank
easy.
you.
Thank you very much. Michael Racine, Class B variance. Request to construct a new house and garage which encroaches on side yard and rear yard. I'm sorry, on side yard. Okay. We have an application.
I have my son Alexander with me. He's slowly taking over a lot of my business, and I want him to get used to this process.
We have a short form C.
I've had the chance to go in front of a few zoning boards, and it's always an experience that I thought would be good for him to learn. I'll let him do all the speaking.
Planning board determined there's a local issue. We have a picture and we have a lot. Can you just tell us, okay, this is, just to be clear,
Why was the planning board involved?
County planning,
Yeah, but why?
within 500 feet of the town line.
Okay, thank you.
across Tom Miller.
you mean the county?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
So 3 circles Grove, right? This one, right? Lot 48. Right? Okay. And you have a house on here and it encroaches on a side yard setback and on a rear yard setback, right?
Yes,
Yeah, it only says side yard on here, but it's both. On the front of the application, it says side yard. But it is both side and rear. Joe, are these averaged? like where it says 8 foot 3 1/4 to that point, do we average that back to the 15?
No, we could on a solid wall like the other side, if that was over, you're allowed to do that on the rear yard, on the side yard only. But because it's 8.3 at that point, and then the
Yeah,
closer
okay.
point is 18.
Right, so it is.
The average is 13 on that side, and it's supposed to be 15.
Okay. And there was no way to get this house and garage, it's the garage basically, correct?
Correct.
It's the issue, the attached garage.
Is the deck affected also?
The deck is,
There's a deck there.
Right, and the
Goes in-
deck,
Goes in the backyard.
yeah,
Oh, there we go.
okay. And where are we at with coverage, Joe? That was in,
coverage is not an issue, it's, this represents
building coverage or anything?
23.6% covered, and they're allowed to cover 25%.
So it's not too large, coverage-wise for the lot is the setbacks, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm just gonna have the board start asking questions. Do you have any questions? Any comments?
Meets the definition of an odd-shaped lot in a unique,
Yeah.
in a unique situation.
I've been trying to figure out how to build a square house on a triangle lot for 2 years, and my architect's pulling his hair out. We've literally decreased the size of this house 4 feet all the way around. And it's been so difficult to try to find a way to put a garage in. Just a note that I just realized, I talked to Michelle Brandon and Terry Brandon, they live in, their property touches mine in the back, and they developed this area, and they just told me that there's like a deed covenant that says there has to be a 2-car garage. You can't put a 1-car garage, because that was one of the options, but it wouldn't be practical for resale. But it's a deed covenant that they told me that there has to be a 2-car garage, so they said I should mention that. So that makes it even more difficult if someone wanted to build here like myself.
Does the garage have to be attached according to deed?
We've tried to detach it, and Joe will tell you it's even more of a nightmare, because then you try to shift everything and it creates a lot more of like an impact on the neighbors. Because there's no way to physically put the garage behind the house. It would be more of encroachment no matter how we turn the house. My other option was to put it way back in the corner. It'd only be 5 feet from the property. But then the neighbors would have about a 20-foot wall straight up like a concrete wall, and I thought that would be unattractive to them. And then my mom's moving in with me, so it just makes more practical sense that she can pull in, we can pull in the garage, and she can walk in and get right into the house, especially in bad weather.
I'm gonna open this to the audience. I know people came, any comments, questions?
Yes, we
Okay.
are the.
First, name and address.
Sorry, Mary Ann Shaughnessy and.
Patrick Shaughnessy.
And we are for Spring Circle, our backyards are connecting, so we are affected by the setback limits. We just have a few concerns with the setback limits, because in the plans, it looks like it is 12.5 feet over the setback limit, which we feel is a pretty substantial amount of space infringing on our property line. Including the deck also comes over the back setback lines. And so those were two of our concerns, along with drainage with coming off of the garage being that close to our property line.
Is that the main concern, the garage, pretty much? I mean,
Well, all three of those are,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, all three are kind of a main concern for us. Because of it being so close, it will then result in excessive draining coming towards us.
okay.
Just a note, they were with me, and I personally made a point, so, one suggestion was from, like a legal suggestion, just put it out on the table, just put it to the board and let them deal with it. Don't go talk to the neighbors, but I'm very proactive, and I feel it's better to, if I'm gonna be a neighbor, I wanna make sure that my neighbors like me and that I'm doing the right thing. I went, and I can give you copies of letters from every one of the neighbors that I've talked to that touched my property, that they've signed and they've agreed to it. They don't feel it's a hindrance or it doesn't bother them, and they've seen my plans. The Shaughnessy's have a great, concern. I have a hardship because it's a crazy triangle-shaped lot with a slope that's pretty steep. I'm not trying to do anything that's out of the ordinary for the neighborhood. A two-car garage is normal.
Mhm.
And the size of the house is the same, pretty close with all, I can give you, I went through every single house on Meadowvale and on the 2 streets, and my square footage is just about the same as everybody else's in the average. The most ironic thing is that their concern is, if you look at their property directly behind mine, and if you measure the point of their deck that's raised, it's 19 or 20 feet, it's not 30 feet. It's the same concern that they're saying they're concerned about with my property, but their deck does the exact same thing. It encroaches within the 30-foot limit. If you look at the house, the blue house to the right of it, you can see spring on it. That, the property line in the back is, I think it's 17 feet or 18 feet. If you look at the next one right here, number 9 Meadowvale, that one's 18 feet. Their deck is 19 to 20 feet. So what I'm asking for is not something that's out of the ordinary for the neighborhood. And again, it's a square house on a triangle lot. I know them, I've known Sean, he's, Pat Shaughnessy for years. He's a great guy, I want to be good neighbors with him. And that they do have a right, because it's a concern, and I don't want to do anything to make them not be good neighbors. And I'll do everything in my power to make it correct and not do a hindrance for them. But anybody that built a house there is going to have this problem. My architect is just pulling his hair out. And I'm not saying their concern isn't legit or they don't have a good concern, but it's, then if the concern is, then I should go to the board and say, well, maybe their deck should be decreased a little bit too. And,
What is your plan to approach the drainage issue?
I talked to them about it, and I asked the Joe, and I thought, right now there's a swale going down through the property on my property that was put in by previous neighbors. And I don't like the idea because stagnant water will create a lot of mosquitoes, so we put a French drain in, so it would be buried. And talking to the engineer a couple days ago, he said it's actually smarter to put 2 pipes, 2 French drains in 1 pit. And there's a natural water drainage that runs to the south and along the property line where the telephone line goes, and it goes all the way down Meadowvale, between Meadowvale and our side, into a culvert. So I'll have a natural drainage that'll catch all that water that will help his property as well, because if he wanted to tie into that French drain at the same time, I was talking to him, he could dig out his backyard with a small pipe and put in a drain, because he's got some low spots on his property that would probably tie in, and I think it would be, be his decision, but it'd be something to be advantageous for his property. But they were not notified that this meeting was going on. They didn't get the card in the mail because they just bought the property. The reason they're here is because I was going out of my way to make sure that everybody knew about it, and it was by me enlightening them that I was going to build a house there, that they're here. Doesn't mean they don't have a right to complain, but I just want you to weigh out their concern versus my concern and anybody else that wants to build there. It's certainly, there's a lot of back rooms still between the properties, and it's not like there's so many other designs where it could have been a straight wall. So let's say I built a house in such a way where I was right on that back property line, and we're only talking 7 feet, I think, that sticks out from the deck maybe, and 11 or 15 from the garage. But it's a point like this that's coming towards their house. It's not a straight wall. If you took my property line and I built a straight wall all the way along there, because of if I built a raised ranch and I built right on the back property line, it would be much more intrusive having an 18-foot wall to have a house that's level than to have a little point of a garage. It's probably the best case scenario, and though it's encroaching on the side, it's the best case scenario versus what could be there if somebody else builds. And then they're still gonna have a problem with a garage. They're not gonna be able to fit a garage on here.
Okay. Any other comments from the public?
Yes. So I feel that all of the lots there are irregular shaped lots. Like my house was built on the same lot shape that he is trying to build his house on. And that porch was there and it was, it did not need a variance. It was approved under, the permit was approved, I guess, before the current regulations were in place. I don't know. But I also know that the other houses on on Circle Grove did not need variances to build, and they were able to fit their house there. A lot of, if you're looking straight onto the house, their garage is part of the house. It's not set to the side of the house. And there is also one house on our circle, Spring Circle, the one to the left, and it does have a one-car garage. So I'm just wondering if the benefits sought can be achieved by other means, such as a one-car garage.
It was.
A one-car garage.
So that development down there is not part of the same development. If Michelle was here, I wish I would have had her come here, but that is a different part. This property up here was bought from two doctors. They were dentists in Montreal, and those are the dentists that required the variances or the deed restrictions in where I'm building. So it is different. Their houses were built probably in the 80s or something, 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Totally different style houses down there. Couple of main concerns. If I was to build that style house on my lot where the development is in Circle Grove, the neighbors they have a fit. I mean, the next door neighbor's house just sold a year ago for $325,000 or $310,000. If I wanted to put a raised ranch like their style house, it just wouldn't fit the character of the neighbors. I mean, to want to make a house like theirs fit on this lot would not be justice in the neighborhood in Spring Circle. Although they're a backyard, if you drive down and you look at the different houses where they are and the style of houses, it's not the same characteristic of the style of houses. The next thing is you don't want to confuse the shape of a lot with the topographic of the lot. If I had her house on my lot, again, I would have a 20-foot wall straight behind her, straight up and down. I'm building with a walkout basement. I have to because the shape of the lot slopes. So it's to say that I could build that house on my lot is not realistic. Because just because it's the same shape or same size, it's not the same topographic. And that has become a major concern, not just the shape of the lot to try to fit a house on here, but to try to put a garage and to try to put on a real nice house that's going to meet the same characteristics of the other neighborhood. It's become very difficult, and that's why I'm here. I've done everything that I could. I've reduced the size of the house. I've done everything to minimize the impact as much as possible. A lot of people have said to me, before you go, make your house a bit bigger, ask for more, and then they'll take something away. That's not my approach. My approach is to be honest with you, to be fair, and to try to ask for the most minimal thing that I need to get this request.
Okay.
You know, and it's frustrating that the neighbors don't see that I'm working hard to try to do this, but I feel like I have to defend myself a little bit.
And, sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
And we do see that, and we appreciate that, and I went back and forth with that a lot, but I can't, how would you feel if someone moved their house 13 feet, or excuse me, 12 and a half feet closer to your property line?
There's a point in my garage that will go closer, but because I didn't build my house when their house was built, I can't do it now.
Right.
But because her house was built before mine, she's allowed to have her house 13 feet closer, her deck. I'm not asking for anything different than what her house is doing to my property line.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other comments from the audience? Any other questions, comments from the audience? I'm going to close the public hearing portion. Any questions from the board? I mean, I think that it is a tough thing. I tell you, it's an odd-shaped lot, and that's the problem. I saw another house, I think it's 5. It looks to me like it's not within the setbacks.
It's not.
But anyway,
It's also, the
One of
lot
the-
is flat and five.
Right, but
It's
one of the
all-
basic tenets, again, I said it before, but it is true, is that zoning is there for people who have odd property, have property that differs from everything else in the neighborhood, or everything else in the zoning district. So that when you have, if the side yard, rear yard setback is set at 30 feet throughout the residential district, and you can say, my lot is different because it's shaped differently, we have lots that have 2 front yards because they're on a corner, those are different lots. That's what we start to consider. I don't know how, what the board feels or doesn't feel. One of the problems that's been created is that we have somebody dreamed up these odd-shaped lots that are nice in the sense that they're circles, but they all go like this, and they're just, they start from nothing. Part of the problem is that they start from such a little front and go out so big in the back, and it's hard. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm gonna ask the board if they have any more questions, any more concerns, any suggestions, and if not, I'm gonna look to do the secret.
Is the garage single story?
There's a small storage above it because it would have looked funny with the house, so we raised it, and we're just gonna have like a drop-down step so we can just store Christmas and stuff, decorations up there.
No, how high is it above the?
It's not above the peak of the house or anything like that.
No,
No,
I'm
but
just
how-
thinking what it's gonna be in that back corner, how,
What we-
'Cause I
we
realize
did,
you're-
and at a
you're down
major
on the hill.
expense, We put some doors in there to make it like a walkout garage, extra storage, like the riding lawnmower and stuff in there.
okay,
If I put that wall all the way up, that was, honest to God, is probably about $15,000 more to do the garage with this basement, underneath it. But if I just put a solid wall all the way up, then the whole backyard would have to be contoured, and all the
Yeah.
land would be contoured all the way back to
Yeah.
their
But
property, or there'd be a high wall.
but
So
I guess from foundation wall to peak on the garage, what is that?
foundation to the first floor is probably 8 feet, and then you have an 8-foot garage, and then whatever a truss roof would be.
Okay,
But it's
Alright.
certainly much lower than,
Alright.
I don't know if you saw the elevations or not.
no, we don't have the elevations.
The other thing I'd just like to note is.
Well, we're okay.
That.
Do you have a rendering of the house?
Yeah, one of the main issues, my sister's selling her house and my mom has nowhere to go. I was supposed to start construction a month ago, and my mom's 85, and there's just no way we want her to go in a home. So time is becoming an issue now that I get the house started and framed up before her house is closed and sold.
All right.
But it's not part of this, but it's something that puts pressure on me.
Okay, I'm looking for.
Do you want to see a?
Yeah, pass that around, I just wanna see what.
Yeah, we can pass that around.
And the character of this was very similar to all the
Let
houses.
me,
that were
here,
built,
just put
it's all
that right up
stone.
on, give it to Joe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on most of the square lots on this, the whole development, most of these lots I've looked at, I could fit this house on it, but this lot is very unique. And I measured all the other houses, the front footage of like every single house in the whole development. And it's just, this lot is very difficult.
Okay, I'm looking to talk about the seeker.
Yeah.
Number 5B would be no. Number 9 would need to be yes. You have to meet energy code requirements. Does anybody have anything else about the secret? If not, I'm looking for a motion regarding the secret.
Is that into the public?
Yeah.
Okay. This I believe is the garage.
Go ahead.
Here.
Yes.
And that's where you're planning on, keeping the, lawnmower and snow blower that you just talked about? This is the 8-foot area that you said, and then the garage is on top of that?
Right.
Okay.
Instead of just being a flat wall, that would be very intrusive.
Right, I
'Cause
just,
I could have
in
that
the
whole
plan,
thing.
it said basement, so I didn't know if there was like an actual, like, basement room going down
Right.
in this part of the garage.
It's just storage under the garage.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a motion on the secret.
I'll make a motion in regards to Appeal 2137, after review of the short environmental assessment form, Part 1, that Part 2, questions 1 through 11 be checked no or small impact may occur, and as a result of that, the chair may check the box that we've determined that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
Seconded by. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm looking for a motion, and I would like it to say, with the, just because it's hard, with the encroachments as shown on the August 4th, 2017 submitted plan in front and, in rear and side yard setbacks, okay?
I'll make a motion in regards to Appeal 2137 for Michael Racine at the location of 3 Circle Grove, where the plan submitted has both side yard and rear yard setback encroachment. And I propose we approve it as shown on the plan submitted with the package dated August 4th,
So
2017.
a yes vote is to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks.
You can read it
Yeah, don't give it to him early.
together. I don't like it when he says.
It's a unanimous yes vote. You're all set. And understand that we did take your concerns and listen to them, and I think, just so you know, and I'm not gonna go through everybody saying yes, I thought about it, I think that it really qualifies so much for a zoning variance because it's such an odd-shaped lot, just like yours would have, and we have had other ones up there, the same thing, these odd-shaped lots. I think that the 17 or 18 feet is not gonna be, it's easy for me to say, I don't have to see it, but listen, I have a house right next door to me. But anyway, I think that, I'm sure he'll be a good neighbor and that you can work it out and you'll find that it's, you know, that's one of the problems, you get used to this vacant lot behind you and it's all nice and bright and light and then people build. But I did listen to you, I just want you to know. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
We're all set, thank you very
Did
much.
you learn?
No.
So much more.
All right, thank you.
Can't lie, right?
Number 2138.
Mike,
You guys have a good night.
You too.
this didn't get read, but this is just something from MLD.
Okay.
Take that. I got a copy of that. I'm sure you'll do that anyway
All
with the
right, thanks,
building
man.
permit.
All right, Donald Bond. How are you, sir? Good. It says in here you got a variance before to build an addition, but did you ever build it?
No.
Didn't think so.
They changed it.
Good evening. This is 7 Palmer Street. Donald and Sheila Bond, add deck to back of the house. We have a seeker form. application, drawing. And you wanna put a deck on it, we can't tell, it sort of looks like it sits in just a little bit.
What's
But
on
is
the
it
back?
even with that, it's even with the house, correct? Or are you gonna be just in a little bit?
No, the size that's encroaching will be flush with the side
Be
of the
flush
house.
with the house, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're 3.2 feet here, you're gonna be 3.2 feet there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, okay.
The problem is the door is,
Huh?
my door is right there on that side.
That
of
was,
the house.
that was the second question. The door is right there. Joe, do you have a picture of the back by any chance?
What the,
So it is the other side, on the other side of that tank, correct?
Pardon?
Where's the door?
Where's the door?
Door's on the other side of the tank.
Right, that's right. And that's right at that,
Yeah,
right there. So you have to bring the deck over there to get out that door.
yes,
And that's the only door out there, right?
yes.
Okay. And is this a, just to clarify, is this covered or no?
No, no,
Just an open deck?
yeah.
Are you ever gonna wanna cover, you don't care about
No,
covering?
no, well, the reason is that the steps are poured concrete, and my wife has a hard time letting the dog out,
Right.
because they're so steep, so she,
How high is the floor?
uh,
I mean, are you gonna step down off of this?
no, I think it's no more than 30 inches.
Right, but you're gonna need, you'll need a railing around the deck.
Yes,
Right, and steps down from that,
Mhm.
that's my question.
yeah.
Okay.
Does that picture show an area you've already kind of marked off, or for the deck, or is
Yeah.
that just,
Well, I started
or is that where the dog hangs out? That's why it's brown.
Well,
That's why my
actually,
yard's
where
brown.
the dirt is my property kind of slopes, and in the spring, all the water collects right there, so I filled it in with dirt to
Ah,
pretty much
Mhm.
level with the bottom step. Hopefully not to collect any more water.
mhm.
Okay. Is anybody here from the public regarding this? Okay, and I'm gonna close the public hearing portion. Are there any questions for anybody? I'm gonna do the seeker then. Let's see. We're gonna change 5B. I wanna make a note that 5B is always yes. I mean, it's always no. Just, but anyway, and we're gonna do yes for 9, even though there's absolutely no energy consumed. Okay, just so it's answered. Does anybody have any other questions about the seeker? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion for appeal 2138 for the chair to check no or small impact on part 2. That the
Second.
proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
I'll second.
Catherine. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now the variance itself, which would be, you said it's 10 feet, right, Joe?
Yes.
So it's 6.8 foot variance for a distance of 10 feet. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion on appeal 2138 that we approve a variance for a deck in the rear of the house as per the plan that was attached to the appeal. It's for a 6.8 foot variance by 10 feet.
Okay.
I'll second.
Catherine.
Thank you.
Okay, yes vote is to approve.
All the same.
Yeah, you're all set. 5 yes votes. Thank you very much for being patient with the process tonight and staying here and applying. Okay, no, thank you very much. You all set, get your permit from Joe, and off you go.
Okay.
Enjoy your thing. Okay. Elm Street. That was. Okay.
I liked it before when you were, I could look to my side to see the projector. As I looked at
I liked it before one was in the other room.
We did too, but they didn't ask us our opinion.
I don't want to do that stuff. What do I gotta do with that? I don't have to sign it.
Chambers, quarters, I did.
I had to bring the pillow.
It's always been since I've
Okay, good evening. Yeah, we waited patiently for you. We scheduled you last. Oh, you were on the agenda last, didn't you? Okay, so this is 25 Elm Street. You're here about this, I assume?
Yes.
Where do you live?
I live right across the road.
Okay,
26 after.
great. I'm glad you're here then. When we get to this point in the evening, we become a little more informal.
That's fine.
No, I mean, okay, but we'll have public comments and all that stuff. I'll do still look that way. But if you have questions at any point, raise your hand. Okay, so you understand, this is 25 Elm Street, owned by 15 Champlain LLC. It's a multifamily use in a B1 zone. We did notice that both applications said section appealed permitted uses, whereas 2139 should have said area and bulk control. Okay, so we changed that. We did get correspondence from the planning board who said, the county planning board who said that they were unable to reach a quorum to provide an official decision on this project. They'll not hold another meeting until October, so we rendered a decision on this project. This time we're not receiving official consent. That we can render a decision without getting a okay? No decision's been made, then they'll talk about it. Okay, so what we have is we have actually 2 applications. And one is for a special use permit, and one is for area and bulk control. And I'll explain that to you. He knows about it. Special use permit, which is whether or not you're allowed to have apartments in a B1 district, means that in our table of uses in the ordinance, it lists 3 different ways, types of uses are allowed. Primary uses, like whatever business. Accessory uses, some other type of use that's allowed as an accessory use. And the 3rd column is uses allowed with a special permit. They are considered a matter of right unless you can demonstrate that it's going to totally change the neighborhood to the detriment of the neighborhood. And we are pretty much, I don't want to say forced, but enjoined or whatever, to grant those. They're a matter of right. In other words, you're allowed to do it. The book says you can do that. But they still have to come to us, and the reason for coming to us would be if it was something that was allowed, but we really thought it was a detriment, and it'd have to be pretty extreme to the neighborhood. So that's what the special use permit is. The second one is the area and bulk control, and it's because they don't exceed coverage or anything like that, but it's because they are too close to the
Side yard.
or not close enough. In that district, you have to be one of 2 things, either 0 feet or 12 feet. They're, what are you, 6 or something?
5.9, yes.
Right, so they're in between. They could, as an example, say, okay, don't give us the variance, we're gonna build the thing right up to the property line. And they'd be allowed to do that. So in general, and we've had some similar ones are, we did one at Skyway fairly recently. The last one was Skyway Shopping Center, Napa, I guess, whatever that building is. On the back of that building, O'Brien's wanted to build, I think, partway back, not all the way to the property line, because they wanted to be able to get around it. And so, but they had the same 0 or 12 feet, so that's when we needed a variance for that. So that's what we're considering tonight. So it's an allowed use with a special permit, and we're talking about whether or not we could force them to either move it back 12 feet, or they could, without even seeing us, go right to the property line. So that's what we're talking about. Okay? All right. I'm going to start board questions, concerns, comments, suggestions. About either, about the special use permit?
So the property is just the covering over that corner is the only,
Basically, the property's been for sale for quite some time now, I don't know if you've been familiar. And at one point it was utilized by the Carpenters Union, Department of Labor. Little Caesars Preschool utilized the center core of it. The new owner is looking to, find a use to fill the rest of the space. Basically, the Carpenters Union pulled out of that westerly portion, the shorter part of the building. They moved to a smaller office on the other side, leaving that space vacant. And it's been very hard to try to find business tenants, to take that type of space. So what we're looking to do is convert that westerly, in the picture of the top half, to residential, and square off the building so it'd be a perfect rectangle filling in that little corner in the back. So we would maintain the existing setback from our westerly line at 5.9 feet up to the south side of the building, again, filling in that back corner and converting from business use to residential use, that portion. I do have a letter from Little Saints, basically saying that they have no objection to the proposal, because that was a concern of the board.
Right.
So again,
Everyone see.
this property, if you look back in your zoning ordinance, it may even still list R2. It was a fairly recent rewrite where they changed it from the R2 to the B1. So the property just to our west, going towards Oak Street, that is all R2. So we are on the line between the B1 and the R2. So this is a permitted use 6 feet away. It's not.
That was the county parking lot.
Right.
Well, I mean, when they changed the county parking lot to the B1.
That's right.
That's.
So when we built the county parking lot, the reason why it's the county plan, but the county has that little remote parking lot hidden in the back.
Right.
Some people would know about it. When they constructed that, they couldn't do it in the R2 zone. So the city, when a zoning changed to convert that section from R2 to B1 to facilitate the construction of the county parking lot, and it changed this parcel from the R2 to the B1, so.
Yeah, I don't know if do we remember why they did that? Why they changed this one besides?
It's funny because if you look at the zoning map, the Margaret Street corridor is all B1.
Right.
But you look at the majority of homes along that Margaret Street corridor, they're either single-family, multi-family, not, besides there's a couple hairdressers, things like that, but there's not a whole lot of business really in that section right there. And where we are being, pretty much a block removed from Margaret Street, we're right on the edge. So I obviously don't feel that residential in this location, again, being permitted 6 feet away, creates a significant change to the neighborhood. It still keeps the same character of the neighborhood.
Well, that's where my concern comes in. What kind of residential? I know this is a lot of apartments owned by companies that are very large, not 10 apartments. Is it aimed more toward college housing? That's my main concern. We've had.
Can I get your name?
My name's Brian Emo. I'm sorry, I live at 26 Elm Street.
Thank you.
I've owned the house now for about 9 years, and we've had some of the tenants that rented around us from college, and there's nothing but problems. There was cops calling every weekend. They had pong tables in the front yard and loud music. And there was a school right behind my house, and they had daycare and all the way till 6 o'clock at night. And it was a problem. Even the school had called the police at some point, and several of the neighbors have called. That was the only reason I came, to find out, to make sure it wasn't going to be geared toward college.
No, not geared all towards college. It's geared towards, they're one-bedroom apartments geared towards the young professional, knowing that we have a tenant within the complex, which is the daycare. So we obviously don't want to create a situation where the tenants conflict with our other tenants, and we have then a problem of renting the space amongst ourselves. So it only benefits us to have a better tenant that keeps it clean and maintains it in that situation.
Here's a question, a direct question. Will any of the leases be semester-based?
I'm sorry?
Will any of the leases, the rent leases, be semester-based?
No. There'll be a minimum 1-year rental.
And that was my concern, we'll see that.
There'll be a minimum 1 year?
Minimum 1 year lease.
Oh, good. Nice. Right, actually, that's a big, non-transient, I would call that.
Correct.
Great. See, that's a, right?
Yep, that was my main concern, like I said.
Right, I'm glad you're here. Can you tell me, you're at which Elm?
Right here.
26 hours, right directly across the road. The numbering on the building.
26?
is 23.
Great.
Yeah, the number on the building says
23, so I was really confused when I got the letter. I was like,
It's,
Yeah,
it is, it's right, because they even, Little Saints mail is delivered at 23, but
Yeah.
according to tax roll, it's 25.
Excited on the front of the door, it
Yeah.
says 23.
But
Okay.
that was my main concern about being here. Like,
Yeah, I
A
bet.
lot of issues there, like before, and
Right.
unfortunately, people in the apartments around us, they've had to evict the tenants.
Oh,
It turned into-
I mean, I live on Cow Street, trust me, I fully understand it. All right.
So is Little Saints going to continue with the daycare and have
Yes.
the, there?
Yeah, and that's what the letter I provided, that basically stated that they take no exception to the, the landlord has met with Little Saints and explained what we were doing, and they,
Are they the only tenants in the building?
I'm sorry?
Are they the only tenants in the building right now?
No, Little Saints, children, pop up the little map. Little Saints takes basically the
I got the
center
map.
court.
Yep.
The Department of Labor has the back part that says 25.
Workers' comp?
Where the office use, they actually have, the Department of Labor has some meeting rooms, actually a
Is that
video
workers'
conference
comp?
for court, workers' comp court.
Mhm.
And the Carpenters Union is actually the top right little corner, and Little Saints is that middle piece in the middle.
All right, I think what we want to do is look at the special use permit first.
How many apartments?
8.
8 one-bedroom,
8 one-bedrooms.
1-year leases. Who said that? You did or he did?
8 one-bedrooms.
Right.
Hold
Okay.
on, as a point of clarification, the board's not stipulating that it can't be college students, right? Because that
We
would be-
can't,
That'd be a difficult thing for me.
no, we cannot say that. I just, all I asked was were any of the leases going to be semester-based, and
Right.
I said no.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
I didn't,
there's
oh, no,
confusion.
absolutely not.
Yeah, that was like sort of like the Renaissance Village
Yeah.
set up where they have like a.
Yeah,
central
we can't say
shade
that,
area,
yeah.
And then there's like each share, that was my concern.
Right, but we can't say no college students.
Right.
We're not
well,
allowed to say that.
it'll be-
I did ask about, and actually, we don't even have control, I was just curious. If they change to semester-based leases, we have no control over that. But anyway, the parking is all set, all that stuff? Okay. So, the first thing is the special use permit?
Now, we can put conditions on the special use permit, though, correct?
No, we can't say no college students.
I realize that. I realize that.
Legal
But-
conditions.
Depends. No, if only some. What do you, like what?
Well, as far as side of the apartments that they are, that is 8 one-bedroom, they doesn't just change his plans, even though we.
Oh, right,
gave
yes, we
them,
can say 8 one-bedroom.
Reasonable
Right.
condition, okay.
Yeah, but let's do, but it is a matter of right to have a multifamily use in the B1 zone.
Yeah.
Right,
I-
okay.
I-
So the first thing is that we have a long form seeker.
So you're doing the bulk control first.
And, item,
But he's just doing the same.
where was it? B, C, big B, little c, says City of Plattsburgh Building Permit, it should also say SUP for special use permit. You don't have to go to the planning board for anything? No.
Maybe not. Because this is a short one.
You can have an office for that?
Nope. different
Because
zone.
of the town, why don't the town has that whole mold?
Leave that. Upside down.
If nobody has questions regarding this.
I just have one quick question.
What's that?
Do we know why the county planning board was unable to reach a decision? Do we have
They
any
didn't
feedback?
have a quorum.
They didn't have a quorum.
The county,
Oh, wasn't able to
yeah,
reach a quorum.
they actually tried to rewrite their law so they could have a
No,
board of
probably not.
7,
Eight
so they
apartments.
could have a majority be, you know, 4. But I guess they got slapped on the wrist by the Department of
Huh?
State because they're actually an 11-person board. So the idea
No,
is they have
versus
to
whatever
get,
the space is.
you know, at least
used
6,
for.
7
Maybe that's
quorums.
easier.
They rarely have.
They may have more
So-
use because they had office space
Thank you.
there that
So
they're
we had
putting
5.
into apartments. It may not increase the demand at this point. I mean, if you
Well,
want to change
yeah,
it, we'll change it.
well, I just wonder, is there, in the area that you're
They're saying
getting,
no increase in water use, is that because there's gonna be less use?
Really, it's the idea that the business use and the number of people that the business use had compared to the single-family residential use is almost
Right,
identical
we'll
as
use
far as
less,
use.
but they're taking up some of the.
so there's already, where the apartments are going is occupied now?
Where the apartments are in the back of the square is actually all asphalt, so we're not changing.
Oh,
So
I
it's
guess
totally-
I was considering that whole strip is proposed residential.
That's right, because
No, it's
this,
just that little square in the back, so is that?
Well, it says proposed
No.
residential use.
Right, so just this little piece in the top, squaring that off, so this
Right.
is currently asphalt.
all right,
and
but
that-
Right.
we're reviewing the special use permit, which includes a lot of
The
the
whole
current
strip to
building.
the west.
To
The
get
west half of the building is all gonna be.
The 8 apartments don't fit.
Right,
in
so,
this
no, so
area.
if you take that piece and then continue it out to Elm Street, so
Yes.
the right half of the
Right.
building.
Right,
Okay.
but.
Is anything
where-
there now, I guess is my question, in that strip?
Right now, there's office space and meeting rooms and there's
So
actually a big conference
It's
room.
occupied, I mean, it's rented out, it's being used?
Right now, no, what the Carpenters Union had that, they moved
To
to
the
the
front.
other side, they downsized. So they're now, so
So
right
it's
now,
nothing now versus a one-bedroom apartment, that's why I'm.
I know what you're saying, right, what he's saying is that based on, it's not an increase in use from it being rented as commercial space to change it to the, even with adding the part.
Okay.
I mean, it's okay, or we can, if you want, change it to yes, it doesn't matter.
No.
I mean, you know, in terms of the water use.
Sure.
Okay,
I just know I use.
what did you,
You want to change it?
well,
She wants to change it. She was the one, she brought it up.
No.
She wanted to change it.
oh, okay.
Not a big deal.
No, I don't, we
But
can't even.
honestly, I would, I mean, if you're gonna be all specific, I think there would be an increase. People taking showers, washing dishes is a lot more than people going to the bathroom periodically in an office.
right, it's just the idea, the office had a large meeting room, so it had the capacity of having, 50 people in the meeting room in the back, so it was fairly large. That's fine.
If
You know,
you
the
wanna
slight
change-
increase
it's
is
not
fine,
a
we
big
can go
deal. If you
check.
wanna change it, we can change, what number, I mean, it's not a big, no, I'm not being sarcastic, it really
That's
doesn't,
Change it.
I don't care. No, I mean, there's a concern, it's okay.
Page number?
5.
Page number, what is it?
5.
Okay, what's the,
C,
C?
Yep.
What are you doing
from Nodius.
from, no,
And
okay?
Yeah.
and you gotta answer this.
And what's the total end, well, it's 800 gallons a day or something?
Right.
800 gallons a day. And it, yes to the other one, and it's city. And yes for the capacity. Yes. No for expanding it. Yes for existing laws, and there's no extension. Okay. It's okay. No, it's no big deal.
No.
I mean, I didn't think it'd increase it, but if you do, it's not,
That's fine.
um,
Gotta flex my
any
muscle
other,
every once in a
what
while.
did you?
On page 10, at the top, facilities serving children within, or elderly within 1,500 feet, all they have is Saints Preschool.
No.
Oh, yeah.
You got Oak
Street
Street School, you got Seton Academy.
Oak Street, across the street.
What's that?
Oak Street Elementary.
Yeah. And Seton Academy, I would assume, would be 1,500.
Close enough, that's fine. No,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And
Okay.
Oak Street and Seton,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Are there any group homes?
Hmm?
Are there any group homes in that area?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Oak Street.
On Oak.
Halfway house.
Why is it open
right up
home, I
there.
think,
Yeah, it's a big
on the
red
other
house.
side, the red house in the corner.
What is it?
On the southwest quadrant of Oak and Elm, there's a large red house, I believe.
No, it's a big
No,
white
it's White
house.
House.
It's,
White house.
It's not.
Or
right
one over
it's
from the
connected
corner,
up.
that's right,
The
yeah.
one in the corner's a church.
That's right, it's the one
And
next
the one
door.
up is,
Do we know the
It's
name
always
of
been
it?
smoke.
They all stand in the corner, yeah. I think
You can't
it's
go on
owned
their
by-
property,
Yeah,
it's
they
a
stand in
church.
the church.
BHSN?
It's a male.
What is
I
it?
think so.
BHSN?
It's a section.
VHS, all right, well, we'll just put BHSN down.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you this anyway.
I got it.
All right. If not, there's no signing this one. I'm just looking for a motion that we find no adverse environmental impact.
I'll make a motion that on appeal 2140, that, after review of the full environmental assessment form, we determined that there is no adverse environmental impact from the proposed action, significant adverse environmental impact.
Second, by Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so now for the special use permit. I'm looking for a motion regarding that. To approve the special use permit.
I make a motion to approve,
Want to read that?
for appeal number 2140, to approve for the proposed multifamily use in a B1 zone.
I'll second.
This is to approve, seconded by,
E.
Can I add on that?
Yes.
It'd be, how many? One bed?
8 one-bedroom.
Up to 8 one-bedroom apartments.
And we're doing the special use.
this is
permit?
2140, right?
Yes, this is on the special use permit.
Okay,
It's really,
Okay. You're okay?
I just want to clarify as to what kind of property. It's a little unnerving to have that.
Yeah, no. Actually, it probably improve the quality of neighborhood, the more residents, and you're all set on that, the special use permit. The second one is, an area and bulk control. This again has to do with the setback and how, whether they're 0 or 12 feet and you're proposing 5-point-something feet.
Right, we're looking to extend that westerly face.
Exactly.
South, exactly the same, rather than project it out to the property line or jet it in to be
Right,
trailed. So we
right.
felt squaring off the building would be as simple and reasonable with us.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
who owns Roosevelt Terrace?
This project.
oh,
It is a private drive that is our property that we've actually met with contractors, the current owner. We're looking to do some work on it in the next 2 weeks to fix it.
Haven't been on it in years and been on it 3 times in the past week, and it's like, man.
It is difficult because some of the businesses on Margaret Street have right-of-ways, but they haven't contributed to it, so they've abused it but not helped out at all. So we're trying to clean that up.
That's where I was coming from. MBT Bank.
Well, I'll be honest, I used to cut through until Seton closed off the end of it. Because my kids used to go to Seton, and we'd drive through and cut out through Northern and head out that way on the way out.
Is that still Varen's ambulance at the end, or is that long gone?
I'm sorry?
Is it still there? Oh.
Yeah.
I'd like to do the short form seeker. And we need to change item number 2.
Can you have the seeker again?
Part 1 to say that it needs a variance, it has Civic Plattsburgh zoning, not the variance. And we need to change 5A and B to both say, no, it's not permitted under zoning regulations and not consistent with the adopted plan. You had yes, but we'll change that. Free. Other than that, I didn't notice any changes. And if not, if nobody else has any, I'd like. Yeah, they can, MLD wants metering information. Did you see all that stuff?
We've actually been in contact with MLD and working on the plan, and we'll have final load out of everything for them.
Denise can give you copies of.
That's fine, just email them to me.
Oh,
That'd be great,
okay.
thank you.
All right, so I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion in regards to Appeal 2139, review of the short environmental assessment form after reviewing Part 1, that Part 2, questions 1 through 11 be checked no or small impact may occur. And as a result of that, the chair checked the box in Part 3 that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I'm looking for a motion regarding the area variance to allow them to build this as per the submitted plan.
I'll make a motion for Appeal 2139 at 25 Elm Street for the Class B variance request to build addition which will encroach within the setback per submitted plan.
To approve?
To approve, sorry.
Seconded by Kelly.
How long is the actual
5,
variance area?
call it 6 feet.
Well, there's 6 feet, but it ends where the property line goes back. So it's not that whole.
No, right.
Right, I mean, it's really, I mean, that's 75%, 80% of the time.
Am I reading this plan here?
Right, so the boundary line turns away and heads westerly, you know, that back corner
Yeah.
would actually be in the farming, right?
Yeah.
Never saying, but for the majority of it, though, it'd be 5.9 feet.
14 feet.
Okay,
That's pretty close to that.
all right.
Between 12 and 14, but 14 would be safe. So that is actually it's 6.1 foot by, or 5.8, either way, right? Because you could be 0. Or front, right? So it could be 6.1 by 14 foot, how's that? So you voted no. Okay, you're all set, 5 yes votes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Get your permit.
Denise, you want us to approve the minutes,
Yeah.
right? From the
There's
July?
always stuff to do,
Hey,
minutes and so forth.
How does first?
Nah,
You're all
we don't
set.
like to make people wait.
You're with,
I'm with Aaron.
okay.
John Duchette. I'm the attorney from Gulf Farm.
He's my muscle. Got the suit.
Yeah, I figured, I didn't think he was the maintenance guy, I thought he was.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I just want you to know that it's only 8:41.
Yeah, I know. Did well.
That's pretty efficient, that was pretty good.
Well, I had a withdrawal, we turned the woman down quick.
Well, and you know the withdrawal, I was thinking about that. the minute we change that form to the owner being the corporation, then we should be requiring a corporate resolution allowing someone to represent the corporation.
If they had stuck with it,
Am I correct there?
honestly, if they
Yeah,
had
but I don't
lawyer.
think we've gotten a lot of corporations, I mean, we have LLCs and, which.
If they had
in
stuck
that
with it,
case-
I would have asked him, I would have postponed on our behalf and asked him to come back with a resolution
Resolution.
from the board authorizing him to ask for it.
I mean, if there's any concern about him representing it, we really should.
Oh, I would, but once
The,
they,
the bank requires it of me every time I buy a vehicle.
no, we require it every
To
time.
support.
Listen, if somebody comes for a special, for a use variance, because they're thinking of buying a place, we have to have a letter,
Right.
right? We have to, people have to have standing, they can't just come. Otherwise, you could go and apply for a variance for anybody's property you wanted. You know, say, I wanna build a gazebo on that guy's property. I don't own it, but I'm thinking of building a gazebo there.
That's essentially what he was asking.
Well, we have the July meeting minutes,
Got some-
Ron, Scott, Kathleen, Kelly, Katie. Everybody, okay. Does anybody have anything on that they noticed that they didn't like?
I don't have anything I noticed, other than across the street on 32 Lorraine, they used the front yard as a parking space again. They took the stakes down that someone put up, so just in case you're looking for feedback from
The neighbors.
the neighbors.
Is that a complaint for tomorrow?
Yes. I seem to be the one on my street who complains about
What
it.
are they doing, Katie?
Just parking on the front yard. That was
Well, we
addressed
didn't
in
give
these
them-
minutes, that's why I brought it up.
That, you mean, was that the lady who was
Who said?
practically cursing her neighbors?
The one who
Yeah.
told you,
think she
I hope
has
you
a
don't
really-
ever need anything from her. That one.
From
Oh,
Shambo,
her.
Okay.
Casola.
Yeah.
Casola.
Okay.
Wow. I have a quick question, and I mean, I don't need a whole labor, but the Shaughnessy's who came, what was she saying about her house being built before there was any, couldn't have been built before there were setbacks? What
No,
was she trying to say?
No, that's
She
not-
called and asked me to look and see how many properties in that area had gotten variances,
Yeah,
and there weren't any. It turns out most of them were built around in the early eighties, which the zoning ordinance that we're working under right now was adopted in 1983.
so,
so-
her house was built before?
Yeah, it was built in 1983.
That's
I-
bizarre. On
that
that circle,
predates-
that circle's been
yeah.
around that long?
That predates all of us, so I don't know exactly what went on. A couple of those on her cul-de-sac would have needed a variance. The one right next to Mike Racine that looked like it needed a variance, it actually,
got a variance.
no, you could average the lot lines because
Oh, that's
the
right.
sides of the house were square. So you can actually project over that setback line a little bit as long as the average of that wall meets that setback requirement. So,
And he was averaging for his appeal, right?
Yes, yeah.
But he still was.
No, Mike Racine wasn't averaging.
no, Mike wasn't, that other
Because-
one next door to him, that appeared to have
Because,
needed. That was the only one that was built in the last 5 years. Everything else was,
You can't average those. You can average them if it's like that.
Oh,
Right, this sticks over, if the side, if you need 10 feet and your house is like that, you can average it from here to here.
that's not really helping me, but it's late, okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll talk with you about it some other time.
Okay,
I'm not
but this-
deciphering your diagram.
But Joe just said we couldn't average this.
Yeah,
Right.
you can't average anything over the rear yard. Okay, that only helps, that only works.
honestly, when
on
you
the
put that
side.
elevation up, I was like,
I
it
know.
looked kind of like imposing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, anyway.
That's what happens on
But
the
are we,
state side.
where are we at?
Yeah.
These are
Yeah,
the
yeah.
July
Because from the
17th.
Well,
front.
what about the minutes? Can we go back to the minutes for a second?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as written for July 17th, 2017.
Seconded by, no, Katie.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I'll second
All in
that.
Levi
favor?
ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
So are you not voting,
She voted.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't let her second.
I don't know, ask Ron, he's telling me what to do.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
do we
motion
have
to adjourn.
Anything
I'll
else?
second.
All approve it?
Aye.
Aye. All
My
set.
other question is, what happens when a restrictive covenant